Greetings, traveler. Video games and running a business are not typically two subjects that you talk about together. But today what I want to talk about is exactly that. How by playing video games helped me not only set up but also run my, video game business. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now. I set up my own company about 4 years ago, having worked in places like Electronic Arts, Tri-Ace, Cygames, and a few others. And when I started on this endeavor, I didn't know all the different skills I would need to set up and run a company. Much like how when I started playing games in my life, I didn't know all the challenges that would appear in games, and I wouldn't know what skills I would build and so on. And after a while, I noticed this very interesting commonality between the two. So let me explain. When playing a game, typically a more challenging game, we tend to go on in the game, we play with our chosen style, chosen weapons, chosen, tactics and so on. And we keep on doing that until we hit a block. So some monster we can't defeat, some boss we don't quite understand the pattern of, some level that we just can't figure out and we keep losing at. This moment comes sooner or later in basically all games, or some riddle we cannot solve and so on. So in that moment, there is a choice that we make, and I noticed myself making over and over again. So typically the more challenging the game became, whenever I hit one of those blocks, I would catch myself thinking, man, this game is so tough now. I don't know what to do. I would have to search on the internet for hours to find a solution. Even if I find the solution, I don't know if I'm skillful enough to execute it, and so on. And I noticed this great stress. I would think, oh man, I have to go back to that game and I don't know how to beat that boss. And that was a very stressful feeling. And in the context of games, I didn't think about it twice, because I thought, well, it doesn't matter how far I get into a game, it's just for enjoyment, right? It's not that I have to beat some record or something else. I just do it for pleasure. So when I made the jump from working in another company and started my own company, I sort of thought that there's a similar pattern there. Unlike working at a company as an employee, where typically your job is pretty set, having your own company means that you have to basically think about how everything is done in a company, how you attract clients, how do you convince them to buy your products, how do you deliver the products once they're ready, how do you continue holding relationships with those customers so potentially they buy again, or they let you know if there's any problem you can solve. All these things are easy to say, but each one of them has a small mountain of sub-skills under it. And the interesting part here is that it's very nuanced. So attracting clients, for example, there's so many ways to do it, right? You could advertise on the internet, you could host a TV show, you could host a real-life event, you can talk to people directly one-on-one in real life, or over chat or over Twitter or whatever. There's all these ways to do it, and each one of them has their own nuances. So what I noticed is that as I was going through this cycle of, doing business, I would get stuck at different parts of the process, much like I would get stuck at different levels of a game. So I would pass the first 3 levels with no issue, but then I would get stuck on the 4th level. And here's the point that I want to highlight today. When I got stuck like that, I would develop this very negative feeling in the case of the game. I would think that game is stupid, or the game became suddenly way too difficult, there's a problem with its balancing and so on. But upon better reflection, I realized that the game itself didn't do that much to change its pace. The only thing that's responsible for me feeling stressed or feeling that this game is too difficult and so on is quite simply and quite specifically the fact that I kept trying to use the old strategy I was using in a new situation. And of course, in the new situation, that strategy no longer worked, so I couldn't proceed. The insidious part here is that I kept using the same strategy thinking it would work. Somehow the game's progress up to that point had somehow conditioned me that, well, if this worked until now, surely it works from here on out too, right? And it didn't. It simply didn't. Taking this back to the business context, I was fairly good at talking to people, fairly good at getting them to engage, but then I didn't know what to offer them as a product, for example, what I could possibly sell the company's services for. And then when I knew how to do that, I thought I would have to go back and find another client again, without realizing that, well, if someone already bought something from me, why wouldn't they buy something else? Or why wouldn't they buy a second time or a third time in the future? All these things kept happening, and I thought, wait a minute, this is extremely familiar, this feeling. So just like in the game, it's not a matter of using the same strategy until it somehow works. You have to understand the new problem, break it down, and basically find out how to defeat that particular boss or level. The same thing happened in business. So it's not a matter of just doing the same thing I was doing before, just more or for more hours or something like that. There was a clear problem here. So in the case of re-engaging past clients, of course you could keep getting new clients forever, but eventually the people I know or the people I would realistically be able to contact would become zero. It would be unrealistic to keep doing that and hoping that that would be the only thing I would have to do to continue my business. But being able to re-engage old clients, for example, would be a much better return on time investment than keep getting new clients the old way. I just didn't know how to do it. And finding out how to do it was not difficult. Once I admitted to myself that this is something I don't know, and it's something that's learnable, and there's tons of people online that have shared their experience, shared their own frameworks, they've done it, so surely I can do it as well. Once I admitted that to myself, then I could start looking into it and figuring it out. So in this particular case, the path that that lied ahead of me was quite simply, assuming there was an existing client of mine, what would I say to ask if they would like the same service again or the same product again? So instead of thinking about it in a highly emotionally charged and stressed way of thinking, oh my God, I don't know how to do this thing, and what will I do? I cannot contact new people forever. That frame of thinking did not help me at all. But thinking, okay, I accepted that it's beneficial to be able to re-engage old clients, for example. If I were to do so I know it has value. If I were to do so, how exactly would I do it? What method would I pick? Would I send them an email? Would I invite them out to dinner? Would we go for a coffee? Or would I send a mass message on X or whatever? Once I decided the method, then I would decide the content of the message, and then simply see the reaction. And of course, not everybody would require more services, but some people would. And that was simply figuring out how to do it. And that process, I want to stress, was not stressful at all. So it was just about figuring out the strategy, or rather deciding the strategy and seeing its results. The emotional process of understanding that this is something worth doing and then investigating how to do it and educating myself with whatever resource I had was not stressful at all. It was a very calm, very logical, step-based procedure. But just like in a game, when I was thinking, oh man, this boss, why doesn't my old strategy work? This game is stupid, it became too difficult too fast, and so on. that mindset didn't serve me at all. And of course, it sounds super logical now that I talk about it, but in the moment, it felt like I was completely stuck in that stage. So my takeaway from this experience was that when I get stuck in a place like this, emotionally, I feel that there's something wrong with the world, or things aren't how they should be. Since I got this far, I shouldn't be blocked here. I should be able to continue. But all that's actually happening is that some new skill is necessary here. And in fact, it's not as big as a whole new skill. It's just a new method, a new way of doing things. And that's something I can work out with my existing knowledge, with my existing, brain power and so on, without really too much investment. It's just a matter of cold logical analysis and just thinking about what the next step should be. Much like how you analyze an enemy in a game. Once you see them, you think they're too quick they always dodge my attacks, but if I use an area attack, that gets them because it's not evasion based. It was that simple. And saying this, I know that the next time I get stuck on something, I will still get the same emotional feedback, thinking, I'm stuck again. I should go back to my original way of doing things. If I do it like I used to, it's surely gonna work. So this video is as much for you, traveler, in case you ever find yourself in this situation, as it is for me as a reminder that the next time I get stuck, I will feel this emotional charge, and that's fine. But really what will get me out is just evaluating this new enemy, seeing what his weaknesses and strengths are, and just proceed to take him down as if it's just business as usual, because it is business as usual. Anyway, that's it for today. That's my thoughts. Let me know, traveler, if you've been in a situation like that and how you handled it when you found yourself like that. And as always, thank you so much for your time, and of course, have fun.